Very good morning to you watching Western Television. My name is Farish Majid for the Kokoliriko live show today, and today is the 17th of October. The year is 2023. That means that the year is really running at a terrible speed. But the question that you should be always asking yourself is that how are you faring with the plans that you laid at the beginning of the year now that the year is coming to an end? October, just after October, we shall be entering November. After November, then December will summarize the year, and that is how the year will always get done. And quite a lot is happening across the region and the world at large. And from Uganda, the senior fours have already kicked off with the Uganda Certificate of Education examinations, and this means that the senior four candidates are sitting for their last papers. And from Western Television, I would like to wish all of them success in the exams. They started yesterday, actually Friday, with briefing, but the actual papers began yesterday, and today they will also be going back for more papers. And that means that we need to put them in prayers, because we do not expect people to be failing, given the fact that this is the last lot of the new of the old curriculum, and the new students will be the next students that will be sitting for the UNEB examinations will be the first lot of the new curriculum. And what does this mean to the students and all the stakeholders out there? This is really quite a lot. We do not expect them to be failing in these examinations, but from me to them, I would like to wish them very, very successful examinations, and that is how we expect them to pass. We do not expect anybody to fail, because we do not know what some of the circumstances that may come ahead of them, because we are really looking at how these people will be going back for a sitting, given the fact that these were the last set. Does UNEB have provisions for these students to go back and have a chance to receipt for these exams? That is something I do not know, and I will not be talking much about it, because we do not know of the circumstances that may come ahead. But just the saying, we are expecting a lot from the candidates. We expect them to work very hard. We expect them to put all their efforts to ensure that they pass the examinations once and for all, because, as I said earlier on, we do not know what really lies ahead of them, the fate that really lies ahead of them. But just like the saying, not everybody will be going to heaven. We also expect some people to be failing these examinations, because this is the fact. We are really going to also be seeing people failing in these examinations, but that is not what we pray for. But we are just saying we expect them to be working very, very hard, tirelessly. And to the candidates, please, this is the time you need to sleep with your buckets on around you, with your legs in the water, to see to it that you read tirelessly, you give all your times to see to it that you do not relax. And this is a last time opportunity for it. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity for you that you really need to take up seriously. And that is all we need to ensure. And now the government has also issued warning to the schools over sending these students for over school fees. We do not also expect students to be missing examinations, because this is something that we have also seen over the years, whereby a number of students across the country have been missing examinations over the years due to failure to clear their fees balances, and due to the fact that some head teachers also blocked them from accessing the examination rooms. This time round, we do not expect such things to be happening, because UNEB has also devised new means, just like the new means that have been devised by UNEB. If you are a parent that has not completed school fees, when the results come out, you won't be in place to access these results. So that is what we expect to be taking place. And my name is Farish Majid, as I earlier introduced, and today Federick Dramadri is not around. He has been caught up by other official duties, but nonetheless, I'm already here to take you through with the Kokoliriko live show. And today we also be expecting guests, and we are going to be talking on issues of accountability and transparency. This is something that has really been lacking, and we have really been talking about issues of accountability in governments, and this is quite common with local governments. And today we shall be expecting guests from the CSO to be telling us what really they have been doing to see to it that they address on some of these issues affecting transparency and accountability within local governments. And that is all we expect them to be telling us, and they will be joining us later on the show. And my name is Farish Majid, and now moving away to some of the stories, quite a lot is happening, as I told you earlier on, and a number of charcoal bags are said to be rotting at the NFA offices. Remember, recently the government of Uganda, through His Excellency the President of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, issued a directive to the country, and mostly this is to block on issues dealing with the charcoal trade. Charcoal trade, this is not only charcoal trade, but also trade in forests. This is trees. The government actually came out clearly to block such certain issues concerning issues of dealing in charcoal trade. And this is why the government also came out to block, because we are now looking at issues of climate change, which have really been talked of. And as if we are talking about climate change, recently the climate change experts also issued a strong warning to people that we should expect rains more than the usual. So I think within these days, that is what we're also seeing, that they have been raining, and from Arua City, the weather looks a bit cloudy. We also expect to see some rains today. So I think that is what they really told us. And issues concerning climate change, we all have a vital role to see to it that we play a great role to protect and conserve the climate, given the fact that we are all stakeholders, we are all involved, we are all responsible to see to it that the issues concerning climate change are not dealt with just like that. We also have a role to play, that we all have a role to see to it that we protect and conserve the climate and the environment at large. So I think this is something that we need to take keen interest of, to see that we plant more trees. So I think rather than cutting the trees, which the government through His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni already issued, and most of the local governments have actually been following this, and we did see Arua district impounding a number of charcoal bags and auctioning them. So I think NFA also has to auction these charcoal bags that are rotting currently at the facilities of the NFA, because really they may not have places to accommodate this charcoal for long, rather than issuing them or auctioning them out to the public. So I think due to lack of an auctioning farm, these facilities, this charcoal that we are talking about, are rotting at the facility, at the NFA facilities. So NFA, just like the entity that is meant to protect and conserve these forests, is really doing a lot to see that people do not continue with the issues of cutting down the trees. So I think that is something that we also need to embrace ourselves with, to see to it that we plant more trees, rather than dealing in the issues of, rather than continuing to cut down the trees. So for the people dealing in charcoal trade, really I would encourage you to also find other means, other alternative means, to see to it that you earn from, because some people may be earning from this. We have really had scenarios, we have really had issues, we have really heard of stories of people telling us that this is the business that they have really always survived with. There is nothing else that they would do. There is nothing really that they can do apart from this charcoal trade. And this is what they used to pay for paying their school fees. So this time around, we also expect the government to offer a hand to these people, to see to that they also have other means, maybe to see to it that they really find alternative means. The parish development model is around the corner. Maybe if we shall be able to also engage the masses through the parish development model to find other alternative means, because we are talking about empowering people with the money, and the program of PDM is already here. So let the people take initiative, also let them take keen interest to see to that they benefit from these projects that the government really puts to eradicate poverty out of the country. So this is something that we also need to embrace ourselves with. And to the farmers, I beg your pardon, this is really something that is really for you. It is meant to help you. It is meant to transform you. And if we really take keen interest of it, maybe we shall be in place to also benefit from this parish development model that we are talking of. The parish development model, remember, some of the circles have already started receiving money, even Arua City and Arua District. We have heard of people now receiving money, but how are you going to be using this money? That is another question that you should also ask yourself as well. Are you going to just eat this money? Because we have heard of people who are planning already to borrow this money, also something that is quite sad. And we also talked of the other time, just people using this money for betting, which is really quite shocking, because if you are really using this money for betting, then why did you receive the money? Why did you stop other people from receiving the money if you knew that you're going to use it for betting? Because gambling is not allowed. Even most of the religions condemn gambling, because they encourage people to work hard rather than just going for gambling. But if we are using this money to go for gambling, then really it is something that is quite shocking, and that means that we are undermining the government's efforts to see that poverty is eradicated out of the country, because due to a number of challenges, we may not be able to also move out of poverty if we continue to be like the people who are not having the mindset to change, people who are not willing to change, people who are not willing to adapt to the new strategies that the government is putting in place. We may not be able to really see our lives moving out of the poverty that we are talking about. At the end of the day, we shall be able to always also keep on blaming the government, yet the government is doing its part to see to that poverty is eradicated out of the country. And we are still moving on with the issues of PDM. Really, it is a challenge that maybe I've seen, because once that these people are not sensitized before they receive the money, and this is where maybe some of the issues also come in, because we expected the government first to sensitize the public, first to sensitize the masses and let them know of what they are really going to do with this money. And now that the monies have also delayed to come, we have also we have seen also projections of these people's quotations going up, because by the time this person was quoting for this 1 million, maybe at that time this money would be enough, but now the monies are delayed. Just like in Arosh, most of the money is actually delayed, and we have not seen people launching the PDM up to now. So I think people are already receiving the money, but if we do not sensitize them of what they will really be able to do with these monies at the end of the day, and then we shall be also expecting failures in such programs, because we have seen quite many failing. The youth livelihood started, it went, nothing happened. And Tandikwa came, nothing happened. Bonagagawale came in place. These still have not yet yielded, and quite others, so many, because we have seen so many that the government also did put out in place to see that people are really helped. People are really transformed out of poverty, because poverty is really one of the greatest challenges. Just like yesterday, the Bishop of the Anglican Diocese, Pons Onzele Winju, was actually talking about poverty being a great disease. And the other day, on Saturday, we also at St. John's College on Bachi, one of the religious leaders also talked about poverty. So I think poverty is something that really we should ensure that we move out of. Because if you are a poor person, today you will not have friends, because most of the friends really would want people who have something. People would want to associate themselves with people at least who have something little that they can earn from. So I think people do not want to associate themselves with the beggars. So if you are a poor person, it is time that you work hard. And now that the parish development model is coming, you should ensure that you benefit from, both indirectly or directly, you should ensure that you benefit from these government's projects that are really coming in place, because they are meant for the poor masses. But if we do not take care or keen interest to see to that we move out of poverty, then it will really be quite shocking and sad. And then we shall always be continuing to blame the government, and then that is how we should always, that is how we will always remain. We will always remain a poor country. We will always remain below the middle income status. That is something that really the government is striving to move out of. So I think we shouldn't undermine the government's efforts to see to it that poverty is eradicated and kicked out of the country. At the end of the day, it will all be us to benefit, and to all be us to be happy of. It's already 31 minutes after 7 a.m. I think I'm going to be running for a short commercial break. And when I return back, we shall be keeping up with the program, and we shall be also taking up more topics to see to that we let you know of what is happening in and around your vicinities, both from the region and then at the nation and then at the world at large. We should always say that is something that we are also going to be letting you know of. My name is Farish Majid, and today Federick Dramadri is not around, but even if still is not around, nonetheless, I'm here already to take you through with the program, given the fact that all of us have our names start with F. So that is something that you need to be happy of. So I'm going to run for a short commercial break. When I return back, we shall be picking up with more topics from there. Please do not go away.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
We are the passion you've been waiting for! It's Yunus Junior Santamu! It's our league, our football, our boys, our style. Start Times UPL new season starts 15th September. Go for it! What a finish from Ashraf. The Ugandan flair, Brazilian samba, Portuguese magic, the night football craze. More TV games live on Senyuka Prime and Fufa TV only on Star Times. The Star Times UPL, our league, go for it.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Football, our boys, our style. Star Times UPL new season starts 15th September. Go for it!
What a finish from Kukume!
The Ugandan flair, Brazilian samba, Portuguese magic, the night football craze. More TV games live on Senyuka Prime and Fufa TV only on Star Times. The Star Times UPL, our league. Go for it.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from that short commercial break, and we are still discussing issues that affect the nation and the region and the world at large. And this is the Kokoliriko live show, and today is a Tuesday, the 17th of October. And in case you're just joining us right now, you are most welcome aboard. And in the first hour, we really discussed a lot issues concerning education. We did tap on the UCE examinations that are really going on, and then we also tapped on the issues of over 7,000 bags of charcoal rotting at NFA offices. This is really something that is we need to embrace ourselves with, because the government also came out clearly to issue a ban on the issues of charcoal with forest trade. This is really where we also need to embrace ourselves with, and it seems that people have not really taken this directive seriously, and they still continue to deal with these issues of charcoal trade. So I think this is something that we also need to take keen interest of. And today, Federick Dramadri is not able to be with us, but I am Farish Majid to take you through till the hour of 9 a.m. And now I did inform you earlier on that we shall be talking on issues of corruption and transparency, on issues concerning transparency and accountability, which have really been lacking with our local governments and most of the other also private sectors, that we have really also quite seen these issues of accountability and transparency. This is quite common in the procurement processes. We have also seen it happening when it comes to bidding process, awarding contracts. We have also seen this quite happening, and now I'm joined by a guest called Mr. Enzama Ernest from Mayank Anti-Corruption Coalition. This is a civil society organization that is really doing quite enough to see to it that they address and fix on some of the gaps that have been there in corruption. And yes, Mr. Enzama, you're most welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Majid.
Yes, that is Mr. Enzama from Anti-Corruption Coalition, and we are going to be discussing on issues of corruption and accountability, which have really been a great challenge, not only to most of the local governments, but this also goes back and digs deeper in the private sector. But for today's case, we are going to embrace ourselves to deal with issues of local governments. Before wasting any of our times, because we are really running out of time, it's already 41 minutes after 7 a.m., I want to bring you on board and let us know, as civil society organizations, this is my Young Anti-Corruption Coalition, you have really been there in place. What are some of the things that you have really done to see to it that we address corruption? Because corruption each and every day, most of the cases keep on going up every day, every year that comes in. We have really seen issues of corruption going up. As Manyank Anti-Corruption, because we have really seen that Manyank Anti-Corruption has been there for quite some time. Over the years, it has really been doing enough. What have you done as as Manyank Anti-Corruption, a civil society organization, to see that you address on these issues of corruption within the local governments? Because local governments have really been hit by these issues of corruption. Recently, we did see a scandal at the rural city markets. And where the issues came from, there was an issue that was also addressed on issues on what we are just going to be discussing of today, the issues of awarding contracts, where we did see people coming out with complaints that the contracts were not fair enough, which led to nullification of the contracts. And now most of the local governments, to see to that they address on some of the issues, we have seen them now employing legal officers to see to that such messes are not done. And most of the processes have not been fair enough. This is where complaints have always come out from the members of the public. As Manyank Anti-Corruption, how have you supported the local governments to see to that you address and fix these issues of accountability within the local governments? You're most welcome.
Well, thank you, Majid. Thank you, listeners. First, who am I? I'm called Ernest Enzama, just as Majid put it. I work with Mayank Anti-Corruption Coalition. Mayank Anti-Corruption Coalition is a local organization here in West Nile, formed by the people of West Nile, and it's operating in West Nile as a watchdog of the people, to ensure that what is due to the people goes to them as ought. And so we act on behalf of the people to ensure that public resources go into public services to serve public interest. What have we done? A lot has happened since 2008, when Mayank Anti-Corruption Coalition was formed. We, at the very beginning, started like a policing, following closely people who are implicated in corruption cases, who receive corruption cases, We investigated and made referrals as appropriate to seek legal redress, recoveries where possible. But over time, we have also got to understand that it's not a simple thing to fight corruption in the police way. It's important to go the preventive way. And so what we are doing for quite some time now is to empower the citizens, to empower the people on issues of corruption, so that we prevent corruption from occurring other than fighting after the event of corruption has taken place. So a lot of what we do now is creating awareness, empowering the citizens, letting them to know what exactly is corruption. The law relating to corruption, strategies that the government has put in fighting corruption, roles and responsibilities of various actors, including the citizen himself, herself, in fighting corruption. And why we have taken this direction is because corruption takes place in the midst of the people. Probably it would be good, as usual, to understand what is corruption anyway. Now, many time people look at loss of money, loss of public money as corruption. And corruption is far beyond the cash from the treasury to the individual pocket. But of course, that is the key. That is the key, because everything translates into resources, the money. And so we are letting people know that what it relates to service delivery and compromising quality of the services is a corrupt practice. So that's what we are doing to let people know.
Yes.
Just before probably that, because it's important to let people understand this, even right now, yeah, so that we don't lose our target. When funds, resources that are intended to deliver a service, a project site, a service, education, health, is leaving the budget line of that service and is being diverted to an individual pocket or to do anything other than the intended target in a wrongful way is a corrupt practice. Diversion, theft, embezzlement, all those are directly related to funds and resources. But there are other ways which are even more costly than money itself. For example, in the education sector, every teacher is paid a penny for a single minute he or she is in the school compound. If the teacher is not at school, is not teaching, or maybe we can be at school, but is not teaching, that omission to deliver a service has cost implications. I've always done this very simple analysis. If a teacher is paid, for example, 400,000 in a month, in a month there are about 22, okay, for convenience sake, let's reduce it to 20 teaching days. And that means for every one teaching day, the teacher is earning 20,000. Remember, there are only 8 teaching hours in a school, in a day. And if you divide 20,000 by 8, it gives you the basic on hourly rate, on a period rate, if whether the period is 40 minutes, 45 minutes, on a period rate. It goes down to every minute, every second is paid for. if you computed this and project in a month, you see what loss the government has incurred in terms of a teacher who has not delivered a service, a teaching service. It goes the same way with administrators at the sub-counties, at the district, with the health workers in health facilities, whoever is in the public service.
Okay.
So that is another way we lose money. Very recently, we were out on monitoring.
And now that brings me to the question. You talked of addressing corruption not from the policing way, but rather than the preventive way. One of the ways actually corruption could be prevented is through whistleblowers. And we did see this quite happening from the other part of the Maliland, whereby the masses came out clearly to request Inspectorate of Government that is in charge of addressing corruption in this country, not to reveal the masses. And now that is really something that I identified as a challenge. As a civil society organization from Manyang Anti-Corruption Coalition, I know you must have tackled a number of corruption cases, a number of corruption allegations. What is that one challenge that has really been hampering your activities to see to it that you address the issues of corruption in this country?
Okay, just to put it right, it's a question of emphasis. We are not just focusing on the post-mortem approach where event has happened, but we are going the preventive way, empowering the citizens so that they fight corruption proactively. So what is the key challenge that we are facing in the fight against corruption? The willingness of the people to come out and report, but that's the biggest challenge. The will to come out and report is largely missing, and that is what the public officers, those who have the ulterior motives, take advantage of to perpetuate corruption practices. You know, first of all, there's the social element. That this is my brother, this is my cousin, this is so-and-so's son, and we're in the same social fabric. Why should I report him? I am reporting my own brother. Tomorrow or in the evening, we could be sitting together and also partake of the proceeds of this corrupt practice. So that social fabric is a very big challenge. And it's one thing that's compelling people internally not to come out clearly and report corruption practices. But also, too, what gain do I have? That's another challenge.
Yes.
People think, you know, even if I report this, I don't directly lose. There's nothing I directly gain myself. These are certainly negative thoughts. Negative thoughts. They're not the right thinking. Negative thoughts in the minds of individuals that are hampering a little bit the fight against corruption. But also, the legal question. You know, corruption takes place in secrecy. It's never something in the opening that you are going to see, like people fighting and you have a very quick evidence to fight,
But
to argue.
At times we also have scenarios where we have seen corruption happening in open and nothing is done. Where could that be a challenge?
Yeah. By the way, even if corruption takes place in the open, it doesn't wear the picture, the suit of corruption. For example, if bags of semen are being taken from one site, being loaded into a vehicle and taken, and people don't know where it is going, how do you know this is a corrupt practice? Because these are materials at a site of a contractor. When these materials are being diverted wrongly, definitely it will have an impact on the quality of the product. But it's not very clear at that point to say, to determine whether this person who is carrying away the bags of semen has an ulterior motive. It's not very clear to state. Supposing he says, these are materials, I'm taking this to the other project site. And what was required at this project are 100 bags, and we have delivered here 200 bags we are taking. Now, who has the eye to tell, the knowledge to tell at the project site? That's actually the state. Even then, for example, one could transfer 50 bags from now because the works at the particular point require that amount. Who can tell that exactly? No, that's where the challenge is. Even if corruption is taking place in the public place, these people who are collecting revenues on the streets, they are picking monies from the public and put in the pocket. But we know that is the pocket of the government, because they are working on behalf of the government.
Literally, themselves.
From this very pocket, how money goes missing, who can tell? That's why we are saying corruption is a very complicated thing, and normally it presents a very big challenge in adducing evidences. It's always where verifications have taken place through audit processes that we finally arrive at a conclusion that something has happened. Okay. But always people get scapegoats to run away from the charges.
All right, we are already some few minutes to 8 a.m. and we are going to be running for another short commercial break, and when we return back, we shall be picking up with the issues of corruption from there, because the issues concerning corruption do not only affect me, do not only affect you, but affect us as a whole. So I think this is where we need to embrace ourselves, to see to it that we address on the issues of corruption, because the money that is lost in the hands of corruption really will be the money that will be able to also help you and your loved ones out there in terms of getting the services that we really need from the government. So I think we need to embrace ourselves to see to it that we address and fight on these issues of corruption, because corruption really remains a great challenge in the country still to date, and this is where we need to embrace ourselves and to see to it that we address this issue once and for all as a country. We are all stakeholders. We are all involved in the fight against corruption. It's not an individual fight alone. We all have a right to play to see to that we fight corruption. And today I've been joined by Nzama Ernest. He's the Executive Director of Manyank Anti-Corruption Coalition. And really this organization has been there for quite some time. I've been listening to it about it for quite some time, but today it's a pleasure having him on board and letting the public also know of what they are doing to see to it that they address the issues of corruption. This is from the Civil Society Network. They also have roles to play to see to it that they address these issues of corruption. They need to also fix on these gaps, on the challenges maybe the government may not be able to fix in addressing on the issues of corruption, because corruption remains a great challenge till date. We are looking at this, we are facing these issues of corruption. In terms of the issues of accountability, most of the leaders are not accountable. They cannot even explain on the monies that they really receive to see that they also give out this money. So we are going to be running for a short commercial break. When we return back, we shall be able to pick up with the conversion from there. My name is Farish Majid. Stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
We are the passion you've been waiting for! It's Yunus Junior Santamu! It's our league, our football, our boys, our style. Start Times UPL new season starts 15th September. Go for it!
What a finish from Ashraf Kukume!
The Ugandan flair, Brazilian samba, Portuguese magic, the night football craze. More TV games live on Senyuka Prime and Fufa TV only on Star Times. The Star Times UPL, our league, go for it.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from that short commercial break, and this is still the Kokoliriko live show on West Nile Television. From wherever you are watching us from, I would like to say asante sana, and in case you're just joining us right now, you are as well welcome aboard. And we are discussing issues of corruption and accountability, in particular within the local governments, to see to that we address these issues, because we, from the discussions that we had, it really tells us, obviously, that the fight against corruption is not an individual fight, but it's a collective fight. So I think we all have a role to play. We are all stakeholders involved in the fight against corruption. We all have a role to play to see to that we avert on some of the challenges that may be coming up as a result of corruption. And today I'm privileged to be joined by Enzama Ernest. He's the Executive Director of Mayang Anti-Corruption Coalition. And this is a civil society organization that is really in place to see to that they address and fix some of the issues of corruption within the region, because corruption really remains a great challenge, not only to the region, but to the whole world at large. Now we are addressing this issue. We are faced by these issues of corruption, right from the local governments and to the private sector. All the sectors really are now faced by these issues of corruption. And when we talk about corruption, he did clearly state it out, that corruption does not only remain on the money aspect alone. Corruption is really broad, but most of the people, when you talk about corruption, their minds really tend to go very fast to the issues of money. But we are now told that corruption is really far beyond these issues of money. And now I'm joined by Enzama Ernest. We are still taking up with the discussion. You may forgive me if I wrongly pronounce your name. The name is Enzama, I believe. Yes. Enzama Ernest. Yes. That is the name, right? Yes. And we are joined by Enzama Ernest, and we are still discussing on the issues of corruption and accountability, in particular within the public governments and these administrations that we are faced with, where we have really seen a number of corruption allegations really coming up, and we have seen some of the local governments also losing money against individuals who have taken them to court. We have also seen them winning. So I think this is one issue that we need to address out. And if we address on these issues, we may be at the end of the day also be able to avoid some of the unnecessary expenditures, maybe unnecessary money that is lost in the hands of corruption. And at the end of the day, it will also be able to help the citizens, because the citizens are all after getting the services they want. And one way they actually get the services is through avoiding corruption, because if the money has a smooth flow from the right person to the last, then we may not be able to be affected by the issues of corruption. And now you're most welcome, Mr. Enzama, and we are still discussing on issues of corruption. And now I want to bring you on board on issues of accountability also. I want to hold you accountable. One person may ask, whom are the civil society organizations accountable to? Because this is one issue that really public servants are trying to also ask the people who are in charge of corruptions. Who do you work for? We have seen these questions happening more so with most of the government entities. When arrests are supposed to be made, we have seen people asking these questions. Whom are you accountable to? So I also want to bring the same questions to you, because we are addressing government, public administration. This is with the local governments. They are accountable to the masses. As civil society organizations, whom are you really accountable to, and what are some of the things that you have done to see to you that you address on these issues of corruption? You're most welcome.
I always want to discuss governance from the point of agency theory. The agency theory principle is that the one is served is the king. We are actually all acting on behalf of the person that we serve. And we have a common population that we serve. The government is serving the people of Uganda. The civil society are serving the people of Uganda. The private sector is serving the people of Uganda. Even the donors who remit money to whether the government, to the civil society, whoever in the country, or even if they implemented their projects directly in the country, are still serving the very people of Uganda. All these monies, all these resources come in the name of the people of Uganda. So we are accountable to the people of Uganda, just like the government is, and just like any other person who is doing work on behalf of the people and for the people is accountable to the people. And although many a time the thinking is that because probably someone gets, an organization gets money from, for example, USAID, and therefore the paperwork the paper accountability goes to USAID, to the donor. This happens. That's only one line of reporting, one line of accountability. But the purpose for which these resources come are either in health, to deliver health service delivery, in education, to deliver education service delivery, or in governance, like where Macho is, in the governance, to ensure that the right governance systems are in place, the right service delivery processes are followed, and therefore the right service and is delivered to the right quality. That's where the people hold us accountable. Probably that even gives a justification why you bring us here. Otherwise, right, why would I be talking on the TV when our donor, I don't know how many of the donors follow, for example, our TV lines here, our lines here. But our only people are the ones following these events on the local media. And that's why you bring us, so that we account to them. Therefore, we report to the people and we're accountable to the people.
Okay, as we account to these people here, we have been faced by the issues of reporting. You talked about these issues of lack of willingness among the members of the public to report. And recently in Moyo, I think what was Moyo, yes, we also did see the people, the leaders actually coming out clearly to request the body that is meant to address on the issues of corruption, not to reveal the sources. Could that be the information gap maybe that is really causing issues of people not failing to report? Could it be that people have fears still, still have fears on issues of reporting corruption? Where is it a challenge? Where is it really, where is that gap that is really facing the issues of corruption? Because if people may not be aware of what is happening, but where to report, where is that gap and how can it be fixed in your own view? Thank you.
You know, it's a big risk, but the fighting corruption is a big risk itself. You are reporting somebody who has already built, taken a position, has built an opinion that this is an act I am going in, and I know it's a wrong act. Once caught, it has dire implications for the person. For example, a person who is convicted of corruption charges must leave public service for a minimum of 10 years. And you are not very sure, even after the 10 years, whether you can come back. In the 10 years, a lot would have happened. You have missed the salaries that you have been getting. You have missed serving your family. What you would have got by way of salaries goes into the family, livelihoods of the family, education, health, and what have you of the family. And you would have missed it. And that means behind you, the perpetrator who would have been convicted, a long line is suffering. And therefore, to be caught, to be reported, is a very big risk for the one who is fighting the corrupt practice. It's on this account that, people have fears sometimes reporting, because you don't know what happens. By the way, many have even ended up losing their lives fighting corruption.
It's quite common, more so when issues of revenue, when revenue mobilization, addressing some of the smuggling cases, we have seen this quite happening, whereby the people who report, the whistleblowers have also been really dealt terribly with by the masses. We have seen this quite happening, which is quite shocking. And now for people who are following us on social media, via the various social media platforms, you can also share your comments as well. We shall be able to go through and read to the public out there. And for those who are watching us on Zook also, the channel number is 0073. You can also as well use the various social media platforms to share your feedback with us in case you have any question. Maybe in case it could be a comment as well. You shall be able to also let the public know of what is happening there. And now that one is from Federick Dramadri. He's following us from where he is, and he has something to say that tackling syndicate corruption tend to be very difficult situation both for government and other corruption fighting actors. How collaboratively are these actors fighting the kind of corruption? That is a question I will be able to also pose to the guest. I will be able to repeat it once again. Tackling syndicate corruption tend to be very difficult situation both for government and other corruption fighting actors. How collaboratively are these actors fighting this kind of corruption? And that is the question I also be able to pose to you, the guest, and you'll be able to also let us know that how are you people working hand in hand, that is from the private sector, the civil society organizations with government, because at the end of the day, all this affects us all. It does not only affect the government, but also affects the what? Affects all the stakeholders as well. It affects the private sector, because if corruption is one issue that is really it is a dangerous disease that we have really talked of. It is a dangerous disease that really needs urgent cure. If not cured, then we shall be able to really continue suffering from the disease. That is the question I will be able to also let you know, and maybe if you can be able to throw us more light to see to that, what are some of the things that you have done with the government, in collaboration with the governments? This is hand in hand now. Private sector, this is with civil society organization, Manyank, in particular, I want to bring Manyank in particular here, to see that what are some of the cases, maybe some of the issues that you have really worked in with the government to see to it that you address on these issues of corruption. Are there certain things are there certain ventures that you have taken collaboratively to see to that you address corruption, or they are still not there? Thank you.
Yeah, just to conclude from where I left, you know, now the government has acted proactively to protect those who will be reporting these corruption cases. We have the Whistleblowers Act, which protects Whistleblowers Protection Act, which protects whoever draws to the attention of the government a corrupt act. You are fully protected under the law. Our humble prayer is only that, yes, once you detect a case, report in secrecy. You have all these agencies, the IGG, we have a regional office here in Arua, Auditor General's office, you have Auditor General's office also here in Arua, Ediofe Road. IGG sits just behind the hospital, Arua Regional Referral Hospital. Yes. You have the police, so report. And as you report, make sure you have reasonable
evidence.
No, silence over that report. Once you have reported, it's up to the agency that you have reported it to take it up. Your attention might only be required at a later time when reasonable evidences have been adduced through investigations. So kindly ensure that you stop at that point of reporting and keep talking about it. Many times, particularly the auditor, the IGG has expressed sadness over this. People report and then go outside there bluffing. Now so-and-so had said he's untouchable, now I have reported. That is where you present yourself into a very risky situation. So kindly report diligently and let the authority, the agents that you have reported it to, take it up from there. Now this brings me to the question, to what extent do we coordinate? It's not only my Young Anti-Corruption Coalition, it's not only the civil society actors in the governance, but every other person has the doors open with the anti-corruption agencies, Auditor General's Office, Inspectorate of Governance, the police, all of us have the doors open. The agencies are, as it sounds, agency. They are there working on our behalf. And so once we have come across these cases, we have detected these cases, they are very free, they are very open to work with us. As a mature, we have gone an extra mile. Auditor General's Office, for example, has come to us and said, please, you are the one on the ground. Can we work together? We said yes. It's Public Procurement and Authority Act, let alone OAG. I will come to OAG. We have gone ahead and signed an understanding, memorandum of understanding with the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Authority, Assets Authority, and on their behalf, every day we are on the ground, seeing which procurement which project, which contracts are going on ground. You know, just last week, no, it's about 2 weeks ago, that's 2 weeks ago, because we had the discussion just around last week. We are on this kind of mission outside. We call it a mission, but a mission not in the negative context, serving the interest of the people. The revelations are actually very interesting. We went to Aripia Secondary. There's a construction that should have been completed way back in 2013. 2013. We have seen walls that is standing up to today. What happened? Aria SS, under a similar program, we were supposed to receive 10 classrooms with a science laboratory, some facilities in Aripia. We only see rain harvesting tanks installed, again not on a structure that should have been built. It's on another structure. Where is the classroom? Where is the science laboratory block on which these things should have been installed? We have just behind the Ringley Primary UCU, there's a bridge construction going on. That should have been completed actually. We have seen works installed. These are the things we are doing on ground. And IGG, OAG, and PPDA are very free with us to receive these kinds of information. And that's why the coordination, I want to qualify it as good enough. You remember not long ago, West Nile region was rated high for receiving cases of corruption reported to the Office of Inspectorate of Government, the IGG's office. It came out clearly. Arua was leading in terms of cases reported. That means, that demonstrates the extent to which the Inspectorate of Government has the doors open to receive complaints from the people. And we want to encourage people to continue with the same spirit. Any cases you detect and you highly suspect is a foul play in government service, report.
Yes.
The IGG will receive, and even if you go to Auditor General's office, Auditor General will receive.
The times the investigations really take. From the things that you have really stated, you have elaborately tell us that you have really elaborately told us that these issues of corruption being reported is really something that is taking up shape. But now the question that I'm bringing back to you is that how long are the investigation processes? How long do they take? Really, this is one issue that we need to address and we really need to look out for. You really stated that that the doors are open, given the fact that the numbers, really the high numbers, is an indication that the doors are quite open now. This is where I now want to bring you. How long are the investigation processes taking long? And how do they take, for how long do they take shape? And are these issues also revealed to the masses? This is something that maybe I will also be able to interest myself with. And I would like to know if these investigative processes, I know this may be far beyond you, and this is more so with the bodies that you mentioned, talking about IGG, PPDA, and these are the bodies that are maybe responsible for addressing on these issues here. But have these bodies clearly come out to investigate these cases in time? And have they really addressed and fixed these challenges, because they are the ones responsible? Your case may be to identify and report to them. This is something that may be also what you're doing. You identify and report to them because they are the agencies, they are the bodies that are responsible for addressing and fixing these challenges. How long is the investigative processes of these bodies to see to that they address these challenges? Because corruption really remains a great challenge. People may be able to report, but when it comes to the issues of addressing, we have seen shoddy works. This is corruption already. The issues of shoddy works in this country still continues to go up each and every day. We are seeing a number of projects stalling. And this goes back, this is within government projects, more so roads. This is quite common actually with government projects more than the private sector projects. We have seen, and recently somebody was praising the NGOs, saying that the NGOs for them, they do what, but when it comes to government, then that mentality needs to be washed away, because if we are telling people that this is really what is happening, so it's actually from one of the leaders, this lamentation was made during the hand washing day by one of the leaders. For him, he came out clearly to appreciate the NGOs for them for being quite fast in doing their things. But when it comes to government, it seems people are very much reluctant, and people do not have fears maybe in addressing some of these challenges. How long is the investigative processes, and how long is fixing the diagnosis of these challenges? That is another question I will be able to bring to you, and you also let the viewers out there also to know what is really happening. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and it's a question that appeals to all of us. How effectively are these reported cases being handled? Before even I tell you whether it's 1 day or 2 days, you know, what is the core is the implication of these corruption practices to us. If we are talking about the poor bridges, the accident that happens on that bridge happens to my brother, happens to your brother, the local users. If it is a practice in school, the child that is affected, who at the end of the day fails, by the way, look at our pass rates in West Nile, UPE, UCE. The child that fails is your child, is my child, is not a child of any other person elsewhere. The death that occur in hospital is either your wife, my wife, your child. We are directly affected. That's where it becomes important for us to all take interest in fighting corruption. Now, how quickly, how expeditiously these investigations are carried out are also impacted on by a number of things. One, yeah, the truth is in terms of human resources, the personnel, it's a very big challenge. For example, if we reported a matter to the IGG's office here in Arua, regional office, how many staff do we have? There are not more than 3. If we reported this matter, if it is something around finances, and we reported it to the Auditor General's office, how many people do we have in the Auditor General's office in Arua? There are not more than 3. And how many cases are being received? That is where part of the challenge is. But also, too, when we are asked, we have seen these cases happening, we have reported. When we are asked to come and give further evidence, explain further what we have reported, because there is a gap, 1 or 2, that is likely to fail the case if it is just submitted to courts of law, for example, as it is. How quickly do we come up and give that information, build on that evidence? Those are the things which affect the speed at which investigations are carried out. What is critical for us is to ensure that we provide the necessary information as required on time. If we provide all the information on time, but it will take a very short time to investigate. Let alone the fact that there are so many cases that have been handled by the few officers in these agencies. So what is critical for us around this question is the speed at which we respond to the calls to give additional evidence, especially where it is required. Even if it means calling us to court and evidence directly before the courts of law. The speed at which we respond is what will determine the time taken to investigate these cases.
Yes.
Of course, there are also scenarios where all of us really regret. All the evidence is actually now given. Why would you sit down on a case and fail to take it forward? Sometimes we say government seems to be having interest.
Yes.
Loosely we say that. But that is something regrettable. First, the fact that it's a responsibility of the government, primary responsibility of the government, to ensure that public resources are used in public interest, we appeal. the government, the public officers responsible should take interest themselves in these matters and ensure that really together we ensure corruption is fighted to the dot.
Yes, that brings me to the question still. You have not answered. How speedy are these investigations? Are they really that fast, or they at times take long? That is one explanation. In your own opinion now, this is an individual opinion. How speedy are these investigations? Maybe in just 1 minute.
I know there are lapses. That's the best way you put it. I know there are lapses in a number of cases. But really, my conviction is, the government is also trying its best. The government is trying, but I know there are lapses. Which gaps we always draw to the attention of the public officers, the agencies. These are areas where we address. By the way, severally, although I know regionally here we have never held these discussions for so much, but at the national level we have platforms particularly under our umbrella organization, the Anti-Corruption Coalition in Uganda. We are always in engagement with these agencies at the national level, and these gaps that we identify in this fight process are always drawn to their attention.
Okay.
Yes, there's a lot to be desired. That is the truth. But also we know within their means they are trying to do something.
I know you must have identified some of the gaps, and if you were to make recommendations to the government, what are some of these recommendations maybe you will be able to make to the government as Manyanka Anti-Corruption Coalition? Because I know you must have identified some of these gaps, and now if you are to make some of these recommendations to the government, because all these recommendations you are making to the government are for the benefit of the government and for the benefit of the masses at large, because corruption is a disease that really needs urgent cure. This is something that we have always talked about. The song of corruption is one song that people have sung year in, year out. Over the years, people have been singing this song of corruption, corruption, corruption. Right from the time of birth, we have been singing this song of corruption, and now till the time of death, we are still singing of the song of corruption. What are some of the recommendations maybe you can be able to make to the government?
We have done an analysis of the plan, government of Uganda plan to fight corruption in terms of the budget lines, in terms of human resources. We have done this analysis and compared, for example, just Kenya here. Kenya here has a budget line 3 times what we allocate as Uganda to fight corruption to the office of IGG. Kenya here. So we have made these recommendations. Is it possible for the government to fund the office of the IGG reasonably, that we have made, to resource in terms of human personnel reasonably? Those are recommendations we have made. But our biggest interest has been around successful investigations and prosecution of cases. We still see a very big gap in that in this rate, the rate at which cases have been concluded and concluded successfully. We have only, the best we can have only done is to draw the attention of the IGG's office to ensure that this arrests fall short, really fall short of expectations of the people. And probably that is even why we see the corruption practices growing unabated. Because people know out of 100, if there are only 3 cases which go successfully prosecuted, the chances that I survive from this prosecution are 97%, which is a very, very big margin. That's where we are really drawing the attention of the office of IGG.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, dear viewer, if in case you're just joining us right now, you are most welcome for the Kokoliriko live show. And today is the Tuesday edition, and I'm Farish Majid sitting in for Frederick Dramadri, who is away. And I know for the followers of this show, I may not be a new face to you, but in case I'm a new face to you, my name is Farish Majid, and today is the 17th of October. The year is running so fast. I need to also remind you of some of the plans that you laid at the beginning of the year. how are you faring with them, and how are the achievements, where are the gaps? That is something that you also need to really look out for. In case you are not achieving all, maybe partly you need to also thank God for, and in case you have not achieved any, you can still strive within the remaining days to see to it that you also achieve part of what you really laid at the beginning of the year, because as a normal human being, I know you must have also laid some plans or some of the achievements that you will also want to make in the beginning of the year, in the due course of the year as well. So I know you must have laid some of the plans that you really laid at the beginning of the year. But now the question is, how are you faring with them? And what are you doing to see to it that you achieve on some of these dreams? That is something that also you need to ask yourselves within the remaining days. You can still achieve. And in case you're just joining us right now, this is the Kokoliriko live show. You can be able to also share your comments on the various social media platforms in case you have been following it right from the time that we began. That is from 7, because the Kokoliriko show live runs every Mondays to Fridays from 7 to the hour of 9. And then at 9, we shall be able to also have the news in Lubarati. This is for the people who understand the language. This is quite interesting for you to also know of what is happening around your vicinities. For now, let me first run in for a short commercial break, and when we return back, we shall be able to pick up with the conversation from there.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
We are the passion you've been waiting for!
It's Yunus Junior Santamu!
It's our league, our football, our boys, our style. Start Times UPL new season starts 15th September. Go for it!
What a finish from Kukume!
The Ugandan flair, Brazilian samba, Portuguese magic, the night football craze. More TV games live on Senyuka Prime and Fufa TV only on Star Times. The Star Times UPL, our league, go for it.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from that short commercial break, and this is still the Kokoliriko live show, and my name is Farish Majid, and I'm with Enzama Ernest, the Executive Director of Manyang Anti-Corruption Coalition, and we are discussing issues of transparency and accountability in this country, because this is where we have really faced challenges. And when you talk about corruption, you cannot skip talking about the two. We have always had issues, right, from the procurement processes and the bidding processes, contract awardings. This is where a number of issues have really been raised in line with the issues of transparency, because some of the processes may not be transparent, and this is why we are discussing on issues of corruption. And today is the 17th of October. In case you're just joining us right now, you are most welcome for the Kokoliriko live show. My name is Farish Majid, as I earlier on introduced myself, and we are still discussing issues of corruption, because corruption remains a great disease that really needs urgent cure, and of which the treatment does not need for you to go to the hospital, but rather your efforts, because this is a disease it's a disease of mindset. It's a disease of efforts, whereby we all have a part to play. We are all stakeholders involved, and we need to ensure that we address on these issues of corruption, because if it is not dealt with, it will still continue to affect us. It is a disease that really affects us all. It may affect, if it may not be able to affect you directly, who is doing it, then it will be able to affect your relatives, your sisters, or perhaps your aunties, your uncles, everybody out there. It may be able to affect it That is why we always encourage the citizens to desist from corruption, because corruption really hampers and affects a number of projects. It really kills a number of efforts to see to that we really progress and move to the president's dream of transforming the lives into the middle income status. This is one issue where we have really seen corruption slowing it down. So I think we need to embrace and we need to see to it that we are fighting this issue. At the end of the day, it will be able to also affect or help us at the end of the day. So back with Enzama Ernest, the Executive Director of Manyank Anti-Corruption Coalition, and we are discussing issues of corruption. And we earlier on discussed all the challenges facing corruption and the gaps. We also talked about them, and we also talked about the recommendations. And now we are coming back on the issues of corruption still. This is now in line with the challenges from the private sector now. Because we discussed earlier on from the government's perspective, and now we are coming back to the private perspective, because we have also seen the private sector very much involved in corruption, because some of the issues, these supplies are done, because we cannot live without the private sector. We have to work hand in hand. And we have seen some of the service deliveries. This is from the private sector. The shoddy works, some of them come from the private sector. And now we did see the government also coming up to take it up, that they need to take on some of the government projects. For instance, in construction, the UPDF is now doing a lot to see to it that they address on some of these issues of private sector, the gaps that the private sector created. So I think this is also something that we need to embrace ourselves with. Now I'm bringing the guest to throw more light on how we can address corruption from the private sector, because we have seen this happening in most of the sectors. Private sectors have really been very, very much involved in corruption. Overcharging, talking about issues of overcharging, talking about issues of irregularities, which have quite been common. And now I'm bringing back the guest to also let us know on some of the issues, maybe the gaps from the private sector perspective. Yes, you're most welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Majid. You know, for the private sector, you know, the biggest challenge we've had is around capacity. Just to mention, over 66%, close to 70% of the public funds actually go to the hands of the private sector through the procurements, the contracts. And that's that tells us, that speaks to how much the private sector actually controls public services and public resources. But the principle of procurements and government contract is very simple. First, deliver, then you have a recovery. So the operation is on a recovery basis. But we find many of the private entities that go into this process actually do not have the money themselves to kickstart the process. They rely on government money to do the work that they should have done and only got recovered, compensated for the monies that they have expended. Now, because of this capacity gap, we find many contracts that have been taken up take time to be executed, to be implemented. For example, if a contractor had a responsibility to deliver the first stage of a classroom construction to foundation, which probably costs about 80 million, and someone goes into this business with only 30 million, you have dumped the 30 million, but you still have a variance of about 50 million to raise this to the foundation, to the slab, so that you have a claim to the government. In the event that you fail to get the 50 million, then you cannot proceed. That accounts greatly to how, to the delays that we have had, particularly in the execution of contracts works. Two, the technical capacity. Yes, we have all gone to school, the private and all those who are in the public sector. But as we get out of the school, we come out at different levels. Some people go in 3, 4 years, 5 years, but still come out raw. But because they have gone through the process, and they have the paper, although it does not have material change in the quality of the person's thinking and workmanship, you have the opportunity to do government work by way of contracts. And because you have not matured, you have not earned the level of expertise that should translate into quality of services, we find works that are delivered are still not of that very quality desired. That accounts greatly to why we still have buildings collapsing, sometimes even before they are completed. Our buildings are starting to develop structural cracks before even the first year ends over them. A reason why we still ensure that from the public sector we have supervisors who inspect, who supervise these works to ensure that the required standards are met. Relatedly, is a question of attitude. It's really a question of mindset. You know you are supposed to have a 1-to-1 cement sand mix ratio in casting a particular block. But because you just want to make business, you just want to increase on your profit margin, you are mixing 1-to-2 ratio. That is a question of mindset. Sometimes it's not a question of knowledge. It's really a question of attitude. The negative attitude we have, one, because we want to maximize profit, but also two, is this my work? That kind of attitude.
Yes.
So those are three things that are affecting the private sector, that are impacting on works, on services delivered by the private sector, that I think greatly affect the quality of our services.
So government being the funder of these projects, and how can the government also take the responsibility in now fixing these challenges? Because we are really running out of time. We have about 9 minutes to pave way for the Lubara news to also come through. Maybe, if briefly, if you can be able to tell us what the government can do to see to it that they fix these gaps, because most of these private sector players have been complaining of low funding from the government, or perhaps delayed fundings, and we have really seen this happening. And we have also seen some of these companies actually collapsing because their monies have not been paid by government. So this is one issue that maybe, because some of these posts actually rely on loans to undertake some of these projects, which may really be a great challenge to them, and that is why we are seeing a number of shoddy works going on. How can the government help the private sector in addressing these challenges? And what is that one thing that maybe the government can do to address on these issues of shoddy works? Because shoddy works remains a great challenge. I can tell you, most of the government projects that have really been undertaken have been done in a shoddy way. Talking about the roads, the classroom construction blocks, this is quite common with the seed schools. We have seen complaints all over, people being raising concerning these issues of the blocks that have been constructed for these seed schools. One, there's complaint with the Power Seed School. Then the one in Marat also, we have seen Oliver Seed? Yes, we have had people still complaining about the quality of the work that is being put out there. So I think the government needs to come up on board and clearly address this issue, because the monies that these private sectors are paid for come from the government. Maybe lastly, how can the government address this challenge?
One, in terms of quality assurance, compliance, yes, a step has been taken to ensure that for every contract there is a supervisor, a technical engineer, a technical person, an engineer. What the government needs to do, even the individuals, the officers themselves need to do, is stick to the standards prescribed in the designs. I have, on a very positive note, I just want to share an experience we have had at Neo Primary School, just next year in Arua. I went to, I also followed the app routinely, and I found the engineer Tio, Tio of the Arua district, directing, these timbers you have put here are right, purlins. And the contractor had to bring down purlins he had already aligned on the roof. In Ibondo, the engineer also directed, Tio also directed, there's a multi-billion project going on for the laboratory. the contractor had started sinking a foundation before even leveling. And I have read the engineer's comment, stop, first do leveling to standard, and until he certifies. If the government officers and the government therefore picks interest in this manner, then we shall have quality works delivered. 2, who are you going into this contract works as the private sector? Do you have reasonable capacity in terms of financial position? That is something the government should guarantee. You know, there is a simple mistake we make. We want to see your bank balance, what is on your account. And someone goes to borrow money elsewhere, 100 million, because the works around there is okay, puts it there. Once he has earned the contract, it has been awarded to him, withdraws the money and gives back to the person. We need to take an extra step, move an extra mile, and ascertain these private entities that we are awarding contract to as a government, do they actually have the capacity? We need to reasonably satisfy ourselves. And that's why it is important for us as the ordinary people around to also attest, because once the contracts are awarded, they are displayed. Pick interest and understand, is this contractor a right contractor with the right capacity in terms of human resource and financial, who can actually do this work? That is the reason. Those are the reasons why these displays are made. If there are any complaints, we bring them. And then we should act proactively and report this, so that when we know there's a contractor in terms of financial capacities, he may not deliver the work, we report and the contract is terminated before the person starts. So those are the steps the government is taking, and much of the obligation, much of the expectation is really on our side to ensure that we also work very closely and give adequate information to the government to take corrective
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Nzema, for those comments. And maybe you are parting shots because we are really running out of time. The last words maybe you can be able to put forward. To our public officers particularly, you know, the moment you are identified as a person working with any anti-corruption agency, it becomes a shocking thing for them. They don't want to identify. They don't want to work with them. Even for us in the civil sector, civil society sector, much as we are people's voice, we are working for the people. We are seen more or less like the IGG, like the police, an enemy to them. I think that is not the spirit. The government has a positive thought about service delivery, doesn't want public resources to be diverted. It is the same interest that we cherish as the citizens and the voices of the citizens. Kindly, let's join hands, do the right thing, ensure that public resources are committed to public works, public services, so that the desired services are delivered. In any case, what happens when we have a fraud and it impacts negatively on the lives of our people? When someone dies because we have failed to deliver the right service in the hospital, it is both the public officers and we from the same social fabric who go and mourn. Why should you go and mourn when actually you are the poisoner as a public officer? Because you are supposed to have delivered and you have failed to deliver, you actually become the poisoner. Why do you wait until that point? Because you know your actions are going to negatively impact on society. Let us develop the positive heart in the public service. Appreciate the little the government is giving you by way of your salaries and maybe the small allowances that are given to you to discharge, execute a particular task. Appreciate it as it is and give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Give to the citizens what belongs to the citizens. All right, thank you so much. That is the little piece of advice from the guest, and I know you must have taken it. Maybe very small, but very much important. Mind of your actions, mind of your legacy. So that with that, we eventually come to the end of the discussion. And today he has been Nzema Ernest, the Executive Director of My Young Anti-Corruption Coalition, a civil society organization in West Nile dealing with the issues of corruption and fixing the gaps in corruption, because corruption really remains a great challenge And today I've been Farish Majid sitting in for Frederick Dramadri, and he has not been able to really make it on the show, but he has been following. I also want to appreciate Frederick Dramadri for that. He has really been following from wherever he is, and we hope tomorrow he will be able to be with us on the show. And today is the Tuesday edition. I've been the one sitting in for him. Tomorrow we hope he will be back, and with that we also want to pave way for the Lugbara news that are coming through with Feta Emmanuel now. In a special way, I want to thank my camera person, Senior Dizon, and as well Aldo, the producer, for really ensuring that the program comes timely and runs smoothly. It's not an easy thing to ensure that we start from 7 till the time now we are ending. It was not an easy thing. I believe they really have done a tremendous job, and we also have to really appreciate them, and that is how we shall also be able to appreciate you in the fight against corruption. So with that, we eventually come to the end of the program, and today I've been Farish Majid. Let's link up again till next time. For now, I'm out of the studios. Up next will be the news in Lubarati. Thank you so much.